I said it last time, but I'll say it again. As we approach the official launch for Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, the new info is going to start coming fast and furious. Hey there friends, it's Codiak here. Welcome back to Legacy Gaming. Today we're diving into some brand new details straight from the devs. It's pretty obvious that Tiny Tina's Wonderlands is being built on that same platform as Borderlands, but as I said in our last video, it's also clear that the team is really trying to take liberties and make the experience more or less different. In a brand new interview with Eurogamer, creative director Matt Cox, art director Adam May, and senior level designer Gabriel Robitaille had the chance to share some new details about the game. You know we never like to waste your time here at Legacy Gaming, so let's just dive into some of the biggest reveals from that interview. One of the systems the team talked about pretty openly was character customization. We already knew that players would be creating their own custom avatar, but the developers spoke a bit more openly about that entire system. For example, because of the quirky nature of the game, the Gearbox team wanted to lean into that and give players more than just the traditional options when it comes to playable races. They revealed that fish people, dragon people, and orcs would all be options for players to choose. On top of that, the team is making cosmetics a big part of the gameplay loop. Instead of just collecting guns and gadgets out in the world, you'll also be collecting new cosmetics which you can swap in at a new use station. Multiple times throughout the interview, the developers said that the customization options were vast and varied and seemed to be very confident with the number of choices players would get to make. One thing they spoke about was the ability to change out your character's materials, giving your avatar diamond skin, golden skin, or even something like glowing skin. Although we didn't get to see the character creator in action, we learned one more big piece of information, that players would be able to take advantage of asymmetry when creating their custom avatar. That means lopsided features for things like eyes when it comes to positioning and size. The team really seems to be leaning hard into the custom character aspect of Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, and that makes sense considering it's the first time in the Borderlands universe that players will be able to create their own character within that world. Also tying into that custom nature is armor, another thing players will be able to change on their avatar. According to the developers, the armor sets will have a whole slew of different visual styles that go beyond just color changes and will be customizable as well. Armor will comprise of multiple pieces that can be mixed and matched and will roll similar to guns. There are even full sets of armor, that's with a U, that are technically not armor sets but more cosmetics that hold extra perks for your character's class. During the interview, the team also talked about melee combat. As you know, melee and spells are two big aspects of the action loop within Wonderlands, and while guns are still the primary way to dish out damage, these secondary systems will still play a huge part in the way your character functions. The team cleared up a lot of confusion about melee, saying that although melee weapons will have a dedicated item slot, it will still function like a secondary combat feature. The mechanic will function more or less like they have in the previous Borderlands games. We're not about to get some new elaborate melee system, but the team wanted to emphasize that melee weapons are essential to your overall experience within Wonderlands. Melee weapons will have different speeds, powers, and bonuses, and these will all feed into the build you're trying to create with your custom character. For example, a certain melee weapon could reduce the cooldown time of your spells. They also made multiple references to melee combat in the overworld. That's the board game mode we saw in that first gameplay trailer, but they failed to go into further details about how that will all work. Honestly, I wasn't expecting much from melee combat, but knowing that melee items take up a dedicated slot and come with a number of different benefits that help inform a build is a good sign that they'll be more integral in the Wonderlands experience. I'm going to try and wrap up the rest of the interview in this next section here because the developers touched on a number of smaller things that, while not exactly groundbreaking, were connected. What you may have been able to figure out from that first gameplay trailer was the fact that Wonderlands takes place on 3 different planes. The topmost level is the real world, where you see Tina and a number of other characters huddled around a game table. One layer below that, you have the overworld. This is the board game mode where your avatar in model form will move around the world. Finally, you have the FPS mode, exactly what you'd expect if you fired up any other Borderlands games. Now, while the world isn't dynamic, it's far from boring, at least from the sounds of things. In one instance, a fizzy drink falls on the game board in the real world, and that impacts the overworld, and subsequently, the first-person mode, where players will have to find a way around that soda river. In another instance, a Cheeto is left on the game board, and Tina makes up an elaborate story as to why it's there, and it becomes the centerpiece for a dungeon quest. It's that sort of ridiculousness that players can expect at any moment in Wonderlands, and while things aren't exactly evolving because of the players' actions, there seems to be a number of fun curveballs that will be thrown their way. One thing the devs wanted to make absolutely clear was that Tiny Tina's Wonderlands could easily be your first Borderlands universe experience. You don't need to have any previous knowledge of the games or even have played the Assault on Dragon Keep DLC from Borderlands 2. That being said, Gearbox did just release the game as a standalone experience on Epic for anyone that might want to check that out. The last thing they touched on was load times. They said the game would still feature traditional load screens when moving between the larger maps, but most of the smaller encounters while moving around the overworld would be seamless, and players would be able to jump in and out of those encounters easily enough. While not a groundbreaking interview, the developers helped fill in some of the details surrounding most of the major systems, including melee combat, character customization, and the world. We're just a few months away from the Wonderlands release on March 25th, and you better believe we'll be covering the game top to bottom here at Legacy Gaming. So if you like your guides and videos nice and short, getting to the point without wasting your time, do me a solid, hit that thumbs up, and consider subscribing. It's still the single best way to help channels like ours reach new audiences. We also invite you to join us on Discord. We'll be opening up a special section just for Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, so if you're looking for a great community to interact with, check out the link in the description below. Finally, if you like everything we're doing here at Legacy Gaming and you want to support us even more, you can do so by becoming a member. For just a couple bucks, you're helping evolve the channel and take our community to that next level. Check out the join button below to learn more. My name is Codiak, and from everyone here at Legacy Gaming, thanks for watching, and play on.